Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Claxton, and along with me, as always, is our Tough Mudder in training, Bethany McChesney. Before we get into anything, Bethany, I don't know if you realize this. This is actually episode 50.
Is it really?
Yeah, 50. I would have pegged us at 5, so that's a real, we're way ahead of the game.
Well, time flies.
Yeah, and obviously we've averaged more than one a week because we're not we're not quite to a year, and so either we can't count or we've done too many. Okay. How was your week? What kind of workouts do you guys? You're on your big recovery here. You've been getting back in the game. So how are you feeling? What are you been doing?
Yeah, so we're slowly building back. My coach said, after I got out of the boot, she said, you're going to be painfully annoyed with how slow we're going to bring back the running part. So she said, just prepare for it. And it has been that way, but there's been zero pain in my Achilles. Everything we've been doing, it's been fine. I have been back in the gym doing a lot of very specific Hyrox stuff. I have been building back, pushing heavier and heavier sleds, and the body's holding up fine. My left leg still feels a bit behind my right leg after being in the boot. And there's still a lot of ankle tightness, which I'm having a lot of work done on as we go, but everything is holding up. I still feel a little bit out of shape, but I'm really enjoying the process of coming back, and there's no pain in the injury site. So that's really exciting.
Did your coach know you did a 1 mile thing for OCR Stars?
No. So that was I'm going to do this and then I'm going to explain after when there's no pain.
Beg forgiveness rather than ask permission. Excellent strategy.
Yeah, and it all turned out okay. So yeah, that was fine. But no, my plan was to just take that as easy as I felt like my body could handle. So
we might as well touch on it quickly. So yeah, you guys did event 2 for OCR Stars. How'd that go for you guys?
Yeah, so that one for us, so we're the only all-female team.
Winning.
So we're winning. So based on that, because there was some interesting strategy involved in this one, if you were really competing for something, just based on how the points were laid out. So essentially our one girl who for sure could deadlift the heaviest was given the deadlift. And then we had the pull-ups. I'm the only one that could actually do the pull-ups with weight. So at first that was given to me, but then when it came down to the dead hang, if we could have chosen the person to dead hang the longest and get the most amount of points, it would have been me as well. But again, because we're not competing against another team for points, it didn't really matter. So we just kind of dispersed things based on who made the most sense where, who could kind of utilize their strengths. But again, because of the points, if we were competing against someone else, I would have done the death hang just because each second was a point versus every pull-up was a point. So it would be, I did 24 pull-ups, so I could have easily sacrificed that amount of points to get more seconds on the pull-ups. But because again, we're the only female team, we just kind of did what our strengths were, and we could all equally contribute. But yeah, my teammates really surprised me, and we had a really good score on that as far as I'm concerned, based on our predictions for ourselves. So it was good. It was interesting. We don't do max stuff like this very often. So it was unique for us that way.
Yeah, I don't delve in a lot of max stuff either. Like it's not something I mean, the other week I did that 100-pound pull-up just because we were talking about it somewhere with someone, and I'm like, well, I gotta try. Yeah. Right. So I'm like, that was probably the closest to doing any kind of max anything I've done in a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it's my max because I think I could have done a little more. A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. Maybe 101.
Yeah.
So this weekend, I as well went off the rails, and because we were with a lot of friends that we all had kind of WTM FOMO. A lot of initials there, but anyway, So we just we put together on our friend's 5 acre piece of property. We built a 1K obstacle course with like 20 obstacles, and we just did a bunch of laps, as many laps as we could or felt like, and as many obstacles as we could. And I didn't do a ton of laps. I only did like 35K, but I did 500 obstacles. So
Wow.
yeah, so I mean, it was pretty good. We had an absolute blast. It was cold, it was wet, rained, it snowed. But it was great fun. It was really good to do, and definitely was it was a solid replacement. It gave us something to look forward to because we couldn't get down there, or we couldn't commit at the
Scratch the itch.
yeah, we couldn't commit at the time to going down south.
Yeah.
So, but we are very much planning to hit the next one in Pensacola. So that will be very cool. And as well, I've been starting to specify a lot of Hyrox training as well, and more sled pulling and wall balls and getting all that in. That sled still makes me nervous. Until I pulled that sled and pushed that sled, I just don't know. So we'll see how that works out. So speaking of World's Toughest Mudder, we'll have a dramatic reading of the podiums by Bethany McChesney.
Okay, so we're gonna start with the women. So this was a really unique World's Toughest because we have two World's Toughest rookies taking our podium. So first we have Katie Knight, who hit 90 miles in her first World's Toughest, super impressive. And then Amelia Boone, the not so rookie, our veteran, who was 85 miles, and then Erin Ross at 85 miles as well.
I love that the not so rookie. Great. I'm sure she would really appreciate being not so rookie.
Yeah. And then we have on the men's side, we have Mark Batres hitting a record 115 miles, again in his first World's Toughest, and then Trevor Sykos at 110 miles, and then David Fox at 105 miles. So really impressive on the men's side here. If you hit 100 miles, you did not podium.
I think that's the first. And David Fox, openly admit, I have no idea. I've never heard of David Fox before. I definitely know who he is now. And congratulations, man. That's an amazing accomplishment. That's fantastic. And to be on the podium with those two guys are legit. And what a year for Batres. Like, I don't even think Batres realized he could run an ultra this year until Obstacle Racing Media's ultra virus.
Yeah.
And then he cleaned up, like, I mean, he was always, fast, maybe a marathon guy, but.
Yeah. Well, and he has his varsity track background, so which is a lot shorter and faster than ultras. So yeah, it was definitely a step into a new world for him. So this is exciting to see.
And I think that he ran this in the biggest hat anyone has ever run World's Toughest Mudder. It was a monstrous hat. And I don't know how
it didn't look very wind resistant because it stood straight up.
The aerodynamics alone must have really pushed back on him. It must have been extra difficult. It would have been like wearing a weight vest running with that hat on. Yeah. Congratulations to all of them. Really impressive. Seriously, you know what? So here's the thing. Right now, I'm caught up in the hype of it, right? And I'm like, so I'm going to go next year regardless. We're going to go maybe pit, whatever. But now I'm like, do I want to run a relay race with it? Do I want to run it? And I'm like, part of me is like, yeah, I want to do it. And then another part of me is like, you don't really like doing these things. You don't like the mud. You don't like electric shocks. Why do you want to do this again? So I'm on the fence here. I got to decide. I mean, I don't get.
But this is the mind of the OCR racer.
Yeah, it's like I want to.
You're going to sign up for it.
I will say this: if I do it, it is just purely funsy. I'm not out to compete. I wouldn't have a goal. I would just be going to have a good time, and so that would be a little bit different. But that said, we're all on World's Toughest Mudder. We don't usually do a lot of Tough Mudder stuff, but we have a very special guest coming right off her incredible 90-mile win, none other than Katie Knight.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Kate's lips are chapped from that.
Hunter would like to say hi, and then he's leaving. I'm kicking him out.
Is that your
How are you guys tonight?
Good. Good. Can you hear okay?
Yeah, I can. Can you see and hear me?
Oh yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Just
Perfect.
get rid of the pit crew guy. He's of no use.
He's no longer needed. I know.
Awesome. You know what? We're literally, so we can hear you. Okay, we're gonna jump right in and just start right off the
Yeah,
bat.
let's do it.
All right. Welcome, world's toughest mudder champion. Just stick that in, Katie Knight. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
So, Katie, we first heard your name back OCR Stars last year, and I believe you were 4th or 5th there. So that's where you kind of came onto the radar for us and didn't know a lot about you. So tell us then how you ended up into the ultra racing world, because we had kind of thought you were more coming from the CrossFit world. So how did you end up in the 24-hour racing scene?
Hold on. Katie, one sec here. I want to point something out. Actually, the first time Bethany came across you there was because Bethany was in 3rd at OCR Stars, and she was like, "Oh my God, who is this girl trying to catch me here?" And she panicked. So that's why she knows who you are.
Oh, okay. What event was it?
OCR Stars. I was 3rd. Yeah.
You were 3rd. Okay, that's right. That's because I surged at Burpee Mountain. That's what it was. That was a fun workout. That was more like, that's where my CrossFit background really came in handy. But back to your question. So my background's been more in the gym and CrossFit comps and that industry more so. But during that time, I was also running ultras. So I've been in about 3 or 4 50 milers. So that was kind of like off the radar, though. They were, your adventure races. I ran Bryce Canyon. I ran, Grand Canyon. And then I also did like Matt Davis's virtual virus one as well. And so I've always loved kind of like the long distance scene. And then I got to do Tahoe and I did the ultra there for Spartan. And then after that, that qualified me for Worlds in Telluride. And then I went to out to the desert. So kind of in sequence and how that kind of got me going. Last year around this time, I was like, I want to do a 24-hour race. And that was my goal, was to do Telluride and podium. So it's always kind of been the goal over the past year, and just kind of made it come true.
So it's kind of interesting. You're probably one of the few people who has managed to do, and I know like Atkins has done this too. It was done both in the same year, kind of back to back, where you did the Spartan 24-hour and the Tough Mudder 24-hour. It gives you a really different comparison, because the events, although they're both 24-hour like OCRs, they couldn't be any different. Like,
right. Well, I know. So I was just like, oh, they have to be similar because they're both 24 hours. They're, obstacles they're running, but yeah, a lot different now that I know.
How did you find this? So actually, let's go back a bit. Let's start with Telluride, because I mean, we obviously spoke with you about that. And the first thing that jumps out in everybody's mind is 3 burpees in 90 minutes.
Yeah, that happens.
Those are the slowest burpees of all time.
Right. Yeah, that was unfortunate. In my mind, I did 32 burpees to make sure I did not get any kind of time penalty. And lo and behold, it was 28. And then I didn't stand all the way up on one, I guess. I definitely should have had a counter, because at that point, your mind's kind of like, okay, like counting, and there's people counting and they're calling out bibs and whatever. And so, yeah, that kind of struck pretty hard. Had to go back out on course around like 10 p.m. knowing that was the case. They're like, well, you can try to fight it, come back in, go to the burpee pit and talk to them. And so I was like, I'll do anything. I'll do 100 burpees right here and now. I'll do like anything you want me to. Just please take away that 90 minutes. Because what that caused is it kind of took me out of the running of chasing Rhea. And then Chikorita was in 3rd, and that just gave her such a far leeway into getting 2nd. So it kind of like put us in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at around midnight. So it took away some competition, which was kind of a bummer, but I get, you got to do all the burpees. End of the day, it's my fault.
You keep it together when they do. Like, honestly, I would have lost my mind. I would have been furious. I mean, that's probably to me the most impressive thing from that event, is that you managed to pull it together and continue on and do a great race afterwards. Because like I said, I'd have lost my shit. I've been freaking out.
Yeah, I thought about it and I was like, I went back on course and I was like, well, I'm already this far. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I have third, and let's just keep in third the rest of the race. And I mean, I was second on course the entire time. So that was kind of a bummer, like finishing second, but knowing you got third. And Chikorita was really awesome about it. She was like, yeah, come stand on second with me. Like, you deserve it. And I was like, no. That's yours. Next time.
So,
But thank you. I appreciate that.
and again, like, and I've talked about this before. The other time where I thought you got a bad break, and this is all kind of leading forward, is again at Hyrox, where
Yeah.
and I've looked this up afterwards because I was calling that event, and you fell on the lunges, so the sandbag touched the ground, and they DQ'd you for this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we go back into the rules, it says it should have been a 10-meter penalty.
Yeah. Well, and I sat and I debated with her for about 5 minutes or more, and she like just wouldn't acknowledge anything else. And so I'm like, I've already wasted 5 minutes. I don't know what to do. I don't know where, the lead judges are. And so I just like walked off course because it was just like, all right, like, I don't like to be one of those athletes. And you see them sometimes in CrossFit, everywhere in competitions where they start yelling at judges, they start, flipping out. And I'm just like, I'm not going to be that person. So yeah, that was a bummer. We'll come back in Chicago for Hyrox in January and see what we can do. So we'll get some redemption.
We're definitely going to talk about that later. The point about bringing up all these horrible things is that going into this World's Toughest Mudder in my mind, and I picked you to win. I did, totally.
Yeah, you said that.
And I don't know if you double checked it, but I actually did. I think that was the only good pick I did. Everyone else was crap. I screwed everything else up. But going into it, I'm like, she's due a break. Like, she's due to not get screwed over in one of these events. So after seeing Telluride and knowing that you had the ability to do this and to go into it, that's why I felt very confident you'd do well.
Yeah.
So going into a different prep for this, because it is different. Did you have to gear up? Did you have everything ready? How did
gear up for
WTM? Yeah.
Yeah, so I took I've done 2 50-mile ultras like back to back within the same month. So I know it's doable to like make it happen. I took like a week of recovery and then a couple weeks of just like training again, and then like a deload week, and kind of geared up and collected all my gear and everything again, everything I learned from Telluride, and then put that into World's Toughest. So I was a lot more prepared, which was really nice. My pit was better, everything like set up. Gear wise, I got a lot of advice, but kind of just did my own thing as well, which sometimes is just like winging it. And so got a wetsuit and everything like that. So yeah, prepared for that. And then my goal was also for this race not to get any kind of like DQ or anything to happen. I was like, and at the end I was like, hey, I didn't get in trouble for anything. Like my favorite thing. I literally said that like after the finish line. I was like, wow, how nice.
Did you run right over to the judges thing and like, am I okay? Am I good?
I should have. Well, and I didn't know. Mark and I both didn't know those, the bands you get after mile 25. So I only missed one. He missed like a ton, which like someone told me on course, they're like, oh yeah, you can use those and you can, bypass an obstacle. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll get it next time.
Yeah. And those, I mean, I heard that, what was it? That not Devil's Beard, or was it?
Oh yeah. Fear the Beard.
Fear the Beard. Yeah. It was like, it was taking people like 4 minutes to get through that obstacle, and just the actual drainage of energy when you could have skipped that. I think it was Batris I heard had 6 bands he didn't collect.
Yeah.
six obstacles, like 20-30 minutes he could have cut off his time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like he could have ran, who knows, 130 miles. He's crazy. But yeah, Fear the Beard was really hard if you were solo. So I did a couple times solo because if no one was around or you didn't have time to wait for somebody. But if you had a group, you could all just like push forward and up and through. But if it was just you, it was pretty brutal. That was interesting getting to know all those obstacles because I've never done Tough Mudder before. So when they started opening up all the obstacles at certain times of the day and the night, I was like, oh, this is fun. Or like, ooh, I don't like this one. But it was kind of exciting.
And Beth, what you were going to say about the training?
Well, I'm really curious about the nutrition part of it. So this has always really interested me about the really long stuff. So, and I have this picture of you chugging pickle juice straight out of the jar too. So I love, like, pickle juice is such, I talk to my clients about it too all the time, like with instant cramping, relief. So I'm curious your nutritional plan here with going into the 24-hour races.
Right. Like I said, this one was a lot better than Telluride. I still don't do as well as I should. I try really hard, but I like to stick to as much fluid as possible. And I use a really good electrolyte hydration mix and called Hydro Builder. And then I stick to pickle juice every lap. I'll take some. And then Telluride, I had the pickle juice shots, and I would take those on one of the climbs every single lap. Mentally it helps, physically it helps. And then I stick to a lot of like the caffeinated gels. I like those a lot. And then as we get going, I'll eat more solid food. I like Uncrustables. I like Snickers. I stick to more like sugary foods. I was right next to Mark's pit, and he's coming in and he's eating like chicken and rice and like all these things. I'm like, oh, that's crazy to me. So I'm still on like the strategy of like getting better at eating like really solid food. Like I'll have oatmeal and things like that, but a lot of it's like more snacky. And I definitely don't hit my calories per hour, but I try really hard because it is important, because you do kind of start to get like, woozy or depleted after just continuing for so long. But yeah, nutrition is just like, it makes or breaks everything, because it can just ruin a race. Your gut can go, haywire halfway through. And usually it does to everybody at some point. It's just kind of how you battle through things and just keep hydrated is my goal. Because I've had too many experiences. I did the Backbone, which is 67 miles out in California, and I went for the FKT on it, and I got dehydrated. So it's like a fear of mine now, because once you're dehydrated, it's like game over, and it's dangerous, and it's like it sucks. So that's always my goal. And pickle juice, yes.
Yeah.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you had never done a Tough Mudder at all before.
Nope.
The Tough Mudder, I mean, obviously I don't have to explain to you, but it's a very unique attack, because it's not solo. I mean, you went from the Spartan race where it's, you're on your own, you're doing your own thing, to the Tough Mudder where the obstacles are bizarre and weird, and some are team orientated. And if you fail them, you have to bounce around on a ball or drink a shot of hot sauce. It's a little bit different than the most. How did you feel? Like, how did you feel about the obstacles? How did you like them? Did you enjoy them? Was it a team thing? Did you embrace it?
Yeah, like the WTM community is so cool. Like the whole everything from like the pit to like helping each other out there is really, really cool. It's a unique experience for sure. It was a little weird to get used to. It was like, oh, we can help each other up this wall, or like, and a lot like probably the first half I was like, no, I'm just going to do everything myself. And then by the end, it's like, okay, help me, pull me up, pull me through. But it was really cool. And the obstacles, I would say they're like 1-to-1 with Spartan. They're both, some are grippy, some are more technical, take some skill, some are like, but like I would take the penalties for this over the burpees any day. And like drawing on the Etch-a-Sketch and doing things like that, kind of just like, it keeps you going and motivated. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really cool experience.
I don't know about the drawing on the Etch-a-Sketch penalty. I'm still a little. What did you have to draw anyway?
It was interesting. It was like, I feel like I did enough of those as a kid that it wasn't too bad, but it was like, huh. And then the one thing that was really different were the electric obstacles. Oh, yes. The Electric Avenue was pretty crazy. So I took that quite a few times because it ended up being faster than like I watched people go through the other ones, and it was actually faster to do Electric Avenue. So I kept doing that. But man, some of the shocks on some of them really do hurt. I was like, oh, it won't hurt. It's just like they can't, it won't be that bad. But at 2 a.m. when it shocks your hamstring, it's like, ooh, all right, this is different. But it was fun.
I think my first experience with Electric Avenue was, or Electric Eel was on my first ever Tough Mudder. And so we're crawling through, and I took one right between the eyes and
no.
nearly blacked me out for a second. I was just like,
I'm sure that was my fear because they're hanging down. I was like, oh, please don't hit me in the face. Like dodge.
I saw at one point the wind was really high, and it looked like it was helping you guys get through EST because it was blowing all the wires out of the way, and you could just stay low and go across the one side.
Except for it would blow, and then like you would know when the wind would stop, and then they would all come back over, and you would just like have to like duck to the ground or like fall in the water because they would just like drop, it would hit you. And those ones hurt really bad. So it was like, don't touch those. But yeah, the WTM obstacles are just like kind of like doomsday feeling, which is kind of fun. I don't know. It's a cool thing.
It's like Scottish cuisine. It's all based on a dare.
Yeah.
So for the actual race, Tough Mudder, this is another thing where it almost has that kind of fun, weird game aspect to it. But at the same time, you're competing for a lot of money.
Right.
And right. How did that resonate for you? At a time like you're sitting there doing your etch a sketch going, I'm etch a sketching for 10 grand. This is ridiculous. Like,
right.
Were you able to keep that competitive fire and focus?
Yeah, it was because like the top probably like 3 or 4 male and female, like it was definitely competitive. Like everybody was on each other's heels the whole time. You had to keep going. So even if it was fun, it was just more like pushing forward as fast as you can. So if you had to do the etch a sketch, it was like, okay, do this as quick as possible and keep moving. But yeah, it was the very competitive field. And it's always fun when like, third place won't stop. So second place can't stop. So first place can't stop. And that's kind of how it was on both sides, which was really fun. So it pushed everyone to do as much as they could.
And I mean, it wasn't like it was a weak field in there either. You were there with some legends with Aaron and Amelia. Like those are top notch. I mean, yes, Ray was missing, great, but
right.
It was definitely not an easy field. What obstacle did you enjoy the most? Like for me, Funky Monkey the Revolution is still my favorite obstacle in OCR everywhere. I'm not a huge Tough Mudder guy, but that obstacle, I just love the flow of it. And for you, experienced a lot of different ones. Which ones do you really like from this one?
I would say Funky Monkey is fun. It does flow really well, and if you just kind of get into like the vibe of it, it's really cool. I like Block Nest Monster. That one's really cool as you just like keep flipping over them. Let me think of them because I'm still very new to what they were called. So when people were asking me, I was like, I don't know, the spinny one, the one you hang on. What else did I do? I liked all the walls and stuff. Kind of, they're all just like muscle up based, jumping up and over. Those are always fun. Didn't like Fear the Beard. That wasn't my favorite. I was like, it took a lot of effort. And at the top, you were like pretty exhausted every time. What's the one where you have to go under the cage in the water?
Cage crawl.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That one was really fun because it was really hot and really windy during the day. And then at night, like I'd have to sit down and be like, oh, okay. But like you kind of got in the rhythm with that and just like crawled as fast as possible. So that was kind of fun. I mean, I liked them all really. There was, besides Fear the Beard, that's about the only one. And I liked Everest. That was cool. Oh, yeah. He ran up. Like those people, those volunteers are just incredible. Like every time I went through, I was like, thank you so much. Because like without them, like nobody would be able to get up that by, whatever time.
And those guys aren't volunteers. Like they paid to be there.
Oh, okay.
They're actually like they've entered the race, and that's what they choose to do is to stay there all day, helping people up the wall. They do it on what they call it, Everest Angels, and then as well on Mudderhorn.
Yeah, Mudderhorn. Yeah, and those guys like that, like it's even more crazy because you're like stepping on their legs and their shoulders and like everything. And I was like, you guys are going to be so sore tomorrow. And like the Everest guys, I was like, you guys are going to be jacked. You've been pulling people up all night long. Like your lats are going to be so sore, everything. It's impressive.
They just do it out of their own nature. That has become their thing where they're like, yep, this is what we do. We go out, we do like one lap and get set and pull everybody up.
It's crazy.
Wow. And again, that's just to that strange and bizarre community.
Yeah. And like, even like the fact they're out there and it was hot too. Like it was hot and windy. And so I just like, I might have to find all their names and write them a thank you card or something. Cause it's crazy to me that they would do that. But yeah, it's a fun community.
I guarantee they're all, but you want to thank them and they're all like, hey, I helped Katie Knight up this time and she killed her, she won.
I pulled her up, 2 a.m. Yeah. That's awesome.
Were you confident going in? Did you think you had a shot at the win?
I did. So the goal was to podium, and then a lot of like my friends and coaches were like you are gonna win, and that's a little hard for me to be like, yes, I'm going to, because I'm not like, I don't like to be like cocky, and I know that can just be confident, but like anything can happen. But I really did want one, so that was the goal, was to stay in the lead and keep the lead throughout the whole course.
We were watching through the updates and as much on the streams as possible. You did seem you ran a very smart race by the look of it. So I guess the big question becomes, what's next with your direction? Because you said, you want to do Hyrox Chicago, and I imagine, Pensacola, maybe, defended thing again. And I think this goes back to what Bethany was talking about with the training.
Yeah.
There's very different directions.
They are. Yeah.
How do you train for both of those things? Or do you just try to periodize and hit the Hyrox then and then go straight to ultra mode? Thanks.
Yeah, I would say that option more so. My training really doesn't change a whole ton, even for ultras. For me, if I keep a certain mileage on my feet and then a ton on mountain biking or biking, that really sets me up for ultras or anything. And then to get more like sports specific. So for Hyrox, we'll do a lot more, movements that are in the event, or spend a little bit more time in the gym. But really, I kind of keep the same training throughout the year, unless it's more specific for whatever the event's coming up. But I'll probably take time to really dedicate to Hyrox, then to January, and then after that really hit more so the ultra mode. So a little bit less time in the gym, which is not my favorite, but I know it's necessary, and so I'll keep more time on my feet and on the bike, and then kind of hit the ultra season coming up, some Spartans, and then WTM next year as well.
So then I have a question too then about your training leading into ultra stuff. So then what would be your long sessions, whether on the bike or the run, leading into a 24-hour race?
Right. So I'll do my long runs or bikes are on Saturdays, and then I'll have like 1 or 2 during the week. Usually my long bikes are like 3 hours with a lot of climbing, like 2,000 to 3,000 feet if I can, depending on where I am. And then for running, like 2 hours at least for my long runs. I found that biking and climbing on the bike helps me keep the pressure and the injuries off my feet. So I found that like just biking helps leg drive, endurance, everything, while still staying healthy. And it works for me. So that's probably what I'll stick to, because it seems to be working. So we'll do it.
Yeah.
So how many miles do you take on feet? Do you do on feet a week, or do you do just like time wise, or do you focus on a distance?
Yeah, it's more time based. And then I'm going to focus a lot more on heart rate, because I tend to only have a couple different modes when it comes to running. And so we're going to kind of try to improve those and be able to go into different gears. And so really focusing on my heart rate, finding a max heart rate, and then really using that to training over the next, 6 months, year. So that's the plan. But it has definitely worked very well. Like my splits for WTM, like and were anywhere from like under an hour, and then my slowest I think was like 1:37. And so that steady state worked pretty well. And that's what I've been training for quite a while now.
Actually, 1:37 for a WTM lap is not a bad slow lap, even like.
Yeah, well, I had a pit crew that was pushing me, so it was like you have to keep under 1:30 the whole race, was what I was told over and over and over again. So it didn't creep up past that by much, but maybe my last lap, because that was a rough lap. But yeah, that was the goal. And so I think if you can keep that, you can really, do pretty well at WTM.
Did you have to do a lot of penalties? Because I mean, the last time I did it was, well, the only time I did it was 2017. And penalties were very different back then. It was like the penalty for Funky Monkey was almost a mile extra of running, and you had to do with Arctic Enema. So a lot of just distance penalties. So I think then it might have been a little more costly if you didn't have the obstacle efficiency. But did you do a lot of penalties this time? Like I would think stuff like the gauntlet seems to get a lot of people, and Funky Monkey. Did you have any issues with that?
So I kind of I went through a couple times and did all of them without any penalties. And then I kind of tried to figure out which would be faster. And so for the gauntlet, the last section where you went across the doorknobs and the leg, that took a lot of effort and more time than doing 25 jumping jacks. And so by the end, so it was 25 per whatever you went to on the gauntlet. So if you could do 75 if you couldn't do anything, or 50 or 25. And so I was like, I'm just going to not do that, because that's a lot of, time, tension. So I'm going to go do 25 jumping jacks really quick. So it's kind of a strategy too, of what you can do on your skills. And then there is the mile penalty loop for at first you jump on the raft, you go across.
Oh yeah.
What's that? I don't know.
I don't even remember the name of that one, but I know what you're talking about.
But so if you couldn't do that, and then you had to hang upside down and traverse your way across. So if you dropped and that got a lot of people, you had to do the mile. And in Spartan, you can pull yourself across, but this one you had to hang upside down. So yeah, I didn't have to do a ton. And then the ones I did were what I personally chose, I guess, because it was quicker. So Electric Avenue wasn't a penalty, but you bypassed Arctic Enema and I think the swinger or whatever. So it's whatever you could do faster.
I'm never sure how I feel about that,
Yeah. Well, so it's all and I've talked to Ray and people have done this before, and it was yeah, you really have to choose at what you're going to be the best at.
Oh yeah.
Choose your own adventure almost. And that would go with the whole vibe of it. So
oh, I get it as smart strategy. I'm okay with the strategy of doing it once it's in place. I'm talking from the level of Tough Mudder setting it up that way. That's where I'm like, I don't know if I like that or not. I know.
I get what you're saying. It would be nice to make everybody have to do the same thing, right? Yeah. But to each their own.
It's Tough Mudder, and they're gonna continue to do crazy stuff. And it's an amazing event. I don't know why. It's just got that lure that
oh, so cool. I can't believe I've never done one before. I've always seen them. I'm like, I should go do that. That looks fun. But
we're gonna drag Bethany there and make her do it, and I'll be your
yeah. Oh yeah, she definitely has to do one. She'd do awesome too.
Someday.
Okay, deal.
I'll be there.
See that? She meant this year. That's what she really meant.
This year.
Yeah, there's time. Lots of time. You get almost 365 days. You're good to go.
Okay.
So with Hyrox being coming, I guess that's your next big race is Hyrox Chicago, you mentioned, for the US championships. And we are obviously big friends of the hybrid racing and Hyrox and all that. We both intend to be there for that race. What's your goal going into there? Do you think that the podium's within your reach? Can you knock Lauren and Rachel off?
Well, I'm going to say my goal is to podium. So from there, we'll see what happens. But we're going to take a lot of dedicated time and focus and really give it my best shot. The last one, Dallas, was something I went into very overtrained and just not focused. I was doing a lot of other things and my training wasn't focused on that. So I've realized that when I actually do focus and work towards a goal, it turns out decently well. So we'll spend some time and see what we can do.
What kind of time do you think that's going to take? Performance-wise time. Do you think it'll take at the event to hit a podium?
We're going to take a week of recovery, and then we're going to slowly ease our way back into fitness and then hit the ground running. So we have until the event to just give it all I got. So.
Oh, I meant like, do you think it's going to take like a minute 5 or an hour 5?
Oh,
Like,
I don't know. I don't know if I want to give away my my goal.
you
You'll have to find out.
Sub 60.
I'll tell you more.
So sub 60 for sure, guaranteed, right?
Oh, for sure.
Something like was like a 57:28 or whatever it is, something in that neck of the woods.
Who is that guy that has that record? I don't know.
I hear he's a decent pit crew.
Yeah, my pit crew was actually super fun. I only had to wake him up once, and like fun little community where it was like Mark's pit crew, and then some like someone we kind of knew, but it was two moms, and then Hunter and one of our other friends. They just kind of like all just like teamed up, and they were just like the best thing ever. Like they'd come over and rub my legs and like just like stretch my feet. They were amazing. It makes a big difference to have a really good pit crew who's like motivated.
I think that's what I heard. You need some moms on your pit crew.
Oh, 100%. Like I'll never go without one because they were like amazing. They're like, what do you need? Hot chocolate, oatmeal, like we'll get you anything. They don't fall asleep. So
right.
Yeah, the boys were sleeping in the tent and I was like, boys, get up. And they're like, we set our watches, we promised, but your lap was just fast. And I was like, okay, get up. It's not an excuse.
Yeah. You know your pit crew cares about you when they will actually jam food in your place while rubbing lube assortedly in different spots of your body. So you just and then saying, go.
Yep, exactly. You have people who are motivating but also push you. So they're kind of mean, which is not always fun.
No, it can really test a relationship sometimes, having the pit crew and the athlete. There's often a lot of apologies after a 24-hour race.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I apologize because there was like sometimes where like I was probably sassy and I was like, I'm sorry. I was just tired. But it's all good.
So, like you said, back for Pensacola. Is that the plan? You will be at Pensacola. Can we say for sure you're going to be there to defend the title?
I am. I think that's definitely what I want to do. I don't think there's going to be sand, so I think that makes me feel a lot better. I would have taken the Telluride course again over this one, just because like I like to climb, and you get in Telluride, you climb 2,000 feet each lap, but it was like power hiking, like how far and how fast and how long can you climb, essentially. Where this one was just like flat sand running for 24 hours. Like it was pretty brutal. And I know it hurt a lot of athletes where it's just like your calves get tired. Like my Achilles on my right side kind of shut down. It was just a lot on your feet. So not a lot of like hiking or walking time, which, is more stress. So I understand why Mark the next day was having trouble like walking, as we all were, but which he's just crazy. I can't believe he did 115 miles. That's amazing. Have you guys talked to him yet?
Not yet, but I definitely intend to. Yeah, that 115, like that's a record, obviously.
Right.
Unbelievable. I think Atkins could have hit 115 the year he got 110, but chose not to because he was just that cooked. And the fact that Batchers pulled that off, and I don't think needed to secure the win. I think he didn't have to, but still, wow.
Although Trevor was catching up. Like he was very impressive as well, is that he just he kept going and caught up near the end, which was really impressive. They wanted me to go out and get the record for 95 miles, but I was like, you had to start the last lap by noon. I think I finished a little after noon, so there wasn't a chance. But I was like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Did you secretly slow yourself down coming into the end to make sure you weren't back before across noon so they couldn't send you back out?
Someone told me at Everest, they're like, if you finish in 4 minutes, you can go out again. And I thought about it and I was like, well, that's not going to happen. So I probably subconsciously was like, go slow. Made me, I know it.
It's been talked about before. You think 100 miles for a woman is in the near future?
I think so. I think someone could do it. Just having the right race, the certain course that, they like or are good at. I think they could get 100. It'd be cool. I want one of those jackets. That'd be super fun.
the most sought after hideous jacket in the world.
I know, right? But it's cool.
So what do you think going forward next year you can take from this one that you can improve, that'll give you that extra step that'll bring you up another more and maybe put you in line for something like the 100 miles, depending on how the course is laid out?
Yeah. I think I'll probably just up my nutrition game and get more used to eating solid food, just because there were some times on course where I felt a little bit weary and depleted. So I think that would be a game changer to keep going or going faster, harder. That for sure. And then other than that, just like staying injury free and just like training a little bit more time on my feet, I think, because 24 hours is a lot. And if it's a flat course, it's going to be more strenuous on your body. So probably just more time on my feet. And I think Pensacola is pretty flat. So
Yeah,
probably.
I don't think there'll be a lot of elevation. And I think it'll be a very quick course due to that, due to the lack of elevation and due to the fact that it will be fairly warm through the night. You may see a lot of people doing it without the wetsuits, without as many gear changes. And that's why I think maybe next year you might see a 100-mile woman.
Right. That is very true. Yeah, the heat and humidity might hinder some people, but being warm and not having wetsuits makes a big difference. Like this year, it was very like mild throughout the night. Like I never put a wetsuit on. And it was chilly at times, but like manageable, which kept you, a little bit faster. Oh, and I also next year will change shoes and socks. That will happen. Because I didn't want to take the time to take my shoes off. So I ran the whole time in the same pair of shoes and socks.
I could do it.
We'll fix that.
I could do it in the same shoes, but not the socks. I got to change the socks.
Yeah, they were like just filled with sand, like sand and rock. Like Hunter had to pull some rocks out of my feet because they were like inside my soul. So we'll make sure we do that. And I asked Mark and he was like, yeah, I changed like 4 times. I was like, oh, okay.
So if there's any sock sponsors looking for someone, this is who you need.
Oh, that's true. Hit me up.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have for Katie. Beth, how about you?
Yeah, thanks so much, Katie, for joining us, and big congrats on your big win this past weekend. And we look forward to seeing you in Chicago.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Have a really good night, and yeah, we'll see you in January.